Perfect. Thanks, Kathy. We are being recorded, just so you know. The district membership team exists to help clubs. And I think one of the areas that most clubs would appreciate some help with is attracting and retaining members a little younger than I am, at least. And so we put together a panel tonight to answer some questions about how they perceive Rotary. And we have with us Chelsea Holmes, who is a member of the White Bear Lake, or was a member of the White Bear Lake Club, but now is spearheading their satellite club, the Northeast Metro Club. So welcome, Chelsea. Thank you for joining us. And if you want to introduce yourself further, go right ahead.
Hey everybody, I'm Chelsea. I'm happy to be here. Keep it short and sweet.
Okay. And then we have a team member, a membership team member from Faribault, David Connelly. He's been very active in the membership team area, and would like to welcome David. Go ahead and say a couple words there, David. Except you're muted, I think.
How's that sound?
Yeah, that's better. Thanks.
All right, great, wonderful. Well, thank you for putting this on. It's a pleasure to be here. Just thank you.
And our third panelist is Victoria Kamik. She is married to Will, who is the son of Sue and Bill Kamik. All three of them are members of, were members of the St. Paul Club, which is my club. So welcome, Victoria. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So Will is actually not a member.
Well, I'm talking about Will Sr. Bill.
Bill is, and then his grandfather, Roger, was also a St. Paul Rotary member. So we have a little bit of a unique situation here. But I'm a busy mom of a 2-year-old. So pretty exciting.
So we've come up with some questions for each of the panelists, and since I've got Victoria on my screen right away, I'll let her start. The first question is, why Rotary? When you joined your club, what were your expectations and what attracted you to Rotary?
So probably I'm a good person to start with, because we do have such a unique situation. So my husband's family is heavily involved in Rotary. Long before I even met Will or we got married. His dad served as club president, his mom as secretary, I think, maybe it was treasurer. So Rotary has kind of always been a big part of his life since he can remember, since he was probably like 11 or 12. So we kind of have a different view on what benefits there are to Rotary. So many of these Rotarians that Bill and Sue had been able to form relationships with just sort of became ingrained in his life, and then therefore by default into my life. We have so many good friends that were met through Rotary.
All right. How about you, David? How would you answer that question? Why Rotary? What were your expectations? What attracted you?
Yeah, great. So first, the way I got into Rotary is someone asked me, and I think that's an important thing to always keep in your mind. You never know what somebody's expectations or past experiences with the Rotary are. Mine go back to high school. I had friends who were foreign exchange students that I went through the exchange program that I still meet with today. I had an aunt who was a Rotarian as well. At the time, it didn't really depict all that heavily on me, but now that we've joined, we are able to share a lot of ideas and have that connection as family members. What I was expecting when I joined was, I think what everyone kind of thinks of this club is like as an old boys club. I'm just going to go there and connect for my business and have a good outlet for maybe some community service. And what I found out really quickly is it turned into really the one guaranteed day I knew I was going to have a great time with laughter with my fellow friends. So that's been a lot of fun.
Very good. And Chelsea, what was your expectations, and what brought you to Rotary?
Yeah, so I got invited to a Rotary meeting when my mom was president-elect of her club. I was looking for ways to get involved in the community, kind of give back, meet people who share the same interest. And my first experience was pretty awesome. These people are coming together. They want to do good in the community. They want to build those relationships and, have fun. So it was a win-win all around. I've been sold ever since.
Very good. So what was the Rotary project or event that had the most impact on you, and why? And Chelsea, since you're still on screen, why don't you go ahead and lead off on that one?
Yeah, so the first project I got involved in was like city cleanup. So the whole group came together. We cleaned up a side of the road. We picked weeds, we picked up trash, we refreshed paint, and just that instant gratification, once everything was done, it looked much prettier and everybody was able to enjoy and reap the benefits of our hard work that day. And then after, we all got together and did a big potluck and carried on with the good times. So that was my first experience.
All right. How about you, David? What was your the project that had the most impact?
Yeah, we have a project down here in Faribault called Warm Our Community. It's a coat drive, and we serve roughly 1,000, hundreds and hundreds of families with coats, gloves, and boots. And it's one of those things where it's easy for us to take the coat on our back for granted. To me, it gives us a great range of aspect for youth, which is our club's focus, which is great. For me, the moment that I realized the importance of Rotary and the stretch of it was we meet at a hotel, and we do noon meetings, and there was a huge rainstorm, and this family of three little kids, a husband and wife are there. I'm sergeant at arms. They're in the lobby getting a hotel room. They're on like a 5-state trip. And he was a Rotarian. He was the president of his club over in LA where they live. And we convinced his wife to let him join our meeting that day. And it's been a lifelong friendship ever since. And so to me, that day, I was like, you never know who is part of this group, and those connections are everlasting.
Very good. How about you, Victoria? What project had the most impact on you, and why?
So they have, the other two were a little more community focused. For me, the biggest one was actually the holiday party. It's probably was my first Rotary event, and it's just so much fun. It's a chance to raise some money, to get together And that's probably my favorite. It's like one of my highlights of my year, like this last year, being in person again. And were able to get a babysitter and get dressed up and spend some time together. That was I love those kind of events.
Very good. Thank you. So what are things that clubs can do? What are things that clubs can do better? And Victoria, I'll let you go ahead and start since you got the floor, so to speak.
Sure. So pre-pandemic, my biggest complaint would have been that for me, it's practically impossible to leave work, drive to the meeting space, have a meeting, drive back to work. Like that is just a chunk of time that it's not feasible in my schedule. But now, because we've had to adapt because of the pandemic, it's actually been really great because we've been able to go hybrid. I'm still able to attend meetings, but not take that extra time of travel to get there. I do, you do lose out on some of it, but I really appreciate that we were able to be a little bit flexible in that. The other thing, with my industry, I work in healthcare. Daytime hours are really difficult, but we have been able to pivot quite a bit and start offering some options in the evening. It would be nice if they were a little bit later, because it's hard for us to leave work, get home, and then turn around and go out by 5 o'clock. That's pretty much impossible for us. But I forgot where I was going with that. I don't know. It's gone. I have total mom brain, and but something we could do better is incorporating our families into things, making a kid-friendly event so that I can bring him with, because there's definitely a challenge if I need to get a babysitter.
How many nighttime meetings do you have?
Is it every other week? Every
Yeah,
other
it's
Tuesday?
twice a month
Yeah,
at
twice a month.
5:01.
Yeah.
So Chelsea, do you want to chime in then with your idea of what clubs can do better? And probably things you're already trying to do with your new club, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Victoria kind of spoke on a couple things, the flexibility, being more family oriented. I don't see why, we are trying to create this new club to overcome those obstacles that you spoke about, Victoria. I think it's a great idea to be more family inclusive. Who says you can't bring your baby to a meeting? By all means, the more the merrier. The flexibility in time. And I think the flexibility in dues. I think dues should be as low as they can be. And if other people can contribute more, then by all means. But timing and money should not be a barrier. I feel like those are things that we can overcome.
How about you, David? What are your thoughts on what clubs can do better? And your club's already doing some of these, I'm sure.
We are, but I gotta hand it to my other two panelists. I'm sandwiched in between two really smart Rotarians, so I feel blessed. They hit on a lot of the points that I had too. Flexibility in the traditional meeting format is, I think, necessary going forward. We personally, our club has structured dues, which allows the opportunity for maybe younger members to not have to have as much of a financial burden. The only thing I would add to all the great ideas already placed was we'd like to. It's nice to make things fun, and I think we can brand Rotary as people of action and people of fun, and do that a little bit better. So get out in the community, be visible, and have some fun.
Thank you.
And if I could add one more thing, I
Yes,
think
certainly,
it would be
Sylvia.
nice to kind of have things be a little more delegated. It shouldn't be one person's responsibility to do it all. I've noticed that in a couple clubs that I have been in. It's usually a core group of people doing a majority of the work. And like most Rotarians say, many hands make light work. And I feel like we could accomplish more if everybody would just pitch in a little bit.
Very good. I would agree. One of the problems that we have in our club, of course, is getting people to volunteer to help. So it is a two-way street. So I'm going to, we had some questions I sent to the panelists before, and I think we've already pretty much talked about clubs being more flexible. So I'm going to skip to the next question. What are effective ways to encourage newer members to join committees, become project leaders, and become interested in club leadership? So it's kind of like a three-stage thing. So Chelsea, I'll let you start off since you're still on screen here.
Yeah, I think, see one, do one, and teach one. So if someone can show me the ropes, and then if I can do it the next time, and then the following year, if I am able to teach somebody, the ropes, kind of pass the baton along. So again, it's not the same person setting up the event every year. Share in the tasks and the responsibilities so that new members or even members who aren't new but haven't done that before can learn the steps and the processes and the connections and kind of keep the ball rolling for generations to come.
All right. We'll skip to Victoria to give David a rest for a moment. So
All right.
Victoria,
Yeah. So
effective ways to encourage newer members to join committees, become project leaders, and become interested in club leadership.
yeah, so I'm going to tell a little bit about myself. So outside of work and home, I'm actually a pageant contestant. So what that means, I do a lot of community service. And something I've learned through pageantry is that it's not always about the actual community service, like I did this, but it's the growth that you can achieve personally through involving yourself in in organizations. You can learn about yourself. So that's something that I don't think everybody understands when they're asked, or the question is asked of people to join committees. Not only does the thing get done, whether that's maybe planting flower beds, but you as a person are able to grow and develop your skills, whatever that is for you, through participating in these things. So by letting people know how being involved can not only look good on your resume, because sure, I can put I'm a committee chair, that's great, and definitely highlights the skills that I've gained, but I'm also able to just be a better me, through participating.
And so when you're talking to your fellow members, what kind of pitch are you going to make? Are you going to just tell them exactly what you just told us, or are you going to phrase it a little differently?
It depends on what it is, and it's also about finding the right fit for the right person. Maybe you're able to have those conversations with your fellow members and say, what parts of you or of your work are you wanting to grow in, and where does that fit in with our projects, our committees? And it's just about having a good an individual conversation with each person to find out where the best fit is for them.
Very good. Thank you. David, what are your thoughts on getting people to help and to move up the ladder?
I think when we first join a club like this, there's a lot of people to know, and there's a lot of new information to find out. And I think the sooner you're able to get that information into somebody, the better, so they can make an informed decision on how they want to engage. I mean, we all joined Rotary for that reason at some point in time. One thing that we've been doing in our club is we ask those questions. What are you passionate about? Like, tell them about some of the projects before they even join our club. And then in that first couple months of that stage, we actually have a mentor program. So instead of just having the sponsor that you might know, you also have somebody in the club that you go have coffee with, and you always know if you have a question or need some help with anything, you got somebody by your side. So between those items, I think it's really key to play off people's strengths. And one thing that I've learned in the 5 years I've been a Rotarian is a lot of times the best way to get somebody to volunteer is to volunteer themselves, and almost make them join a committee and get going on something.
Well, it's certainly been my experience over the years. If you reach out personally, if you need help on something, just contacting the person individually has worked pretty well for me anyway, over the decades. So thank you.
And David's kind of talking about a mentoring program, right? Which we try to do. And we just kind of, I will almost kind of bully people, say, you really want to be a sergeant of arms. That's a great way to get to know people. This would be really fun for you. I'm going to sign you up for this, in a polite, friendly bullying that they're always glad when we do it.
And I think another way to go about it is just brag about how cool these individual jobs are, if you will. It's really cool to be a president. It's really cool and fun to be president-elect. All the steps you go through, up to the point where you actually become the president. It's awesome. And I feel like we don't brag about it enough. Not enough people know about the process and the steps and the events and all the really cool things we get to be a part of as a Rotarian.
That's right. I know that we have a lot of past presidents on our call tonight. But I know that my year as president, which was a long time ago now, was probably one of the best years of my life. I really grew. It was really awesome, and something that I would love to see everybody else enjoy as much as I did. Going on then, so how often should we ask or invite people to our clubs? And we'll start with David again, since I'm trying to move it around.
Yes. So I think anytime you see somebody that has a passion for their community, by all means, ask. You really don't know what their history is with Rotary, or if it's just something where they don't know where to go to find that love for community service. Those connections are everywhere. Where are your pin? It starts conversations. And so that's what I got on that. I think the people are out there, and if you will never get a new member if you never ask.
So, and the question was, how often should you ask? Do you have a number that you would ask? If you're talking to the same person, how often would you keep asking the question before you sort of gave up on him or her?
Good point. I think maybe frequency over time can be a good thing. Personally, I was asked by my sponsor 2 years prior to me joining and stuff. So he stayed on me. I said, give me 2 years. And sure enough, 2 years later, he asked again. So, you don't want to clearly pressure people into it, but it's okay to ask a couple at a time.
Okay. Victoria, how would you answer that question?
I don't know. Why don't you ask my husband, who is still not a Rotary member, by the way? How many times have I asked you to be a Rotarian? I'm obnoxious. I'll just put that out there. I am like the most obnoxious person ever. So I would literally ask you every conversation. Well, why not? Well, why not? Why not? And they'd be like, just stop talking. And I'm like, it's not going to work. Sorry. I'm still going to bother you. And usually my persistence pays off in a good way. You know, of course you want to do it in good fun, and, you know, you can always feel from the person when it's really not going to happen. But, you know, I do. And I agree with David. I think it's really important to wear the swag, right? I still come across a lot of people that are, you know, have either seen the Rotary wheel, you know, like on a sign or something, but they don't really understand it at all, or they've never heard of it. They don't understand it. They don't get it. And it's like, so then it sort of opens the door and allows you the time to have that conversation about what is Rotary and, you know, how you can get involved.
Have you developed what we call an elevator speech in your
I have
process?
not yet, so I'm relatively new to Rotary itself. You know, yes, it's been a peripheral for the last 10 years. But, you know, I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm getting out of it, right, on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis. So still figuring that piece out.
Well, I'll ask you a year from now after you've been on the board for a year. So
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Somebody else had a question? Maybe not. All right, Chelsea, how will you answer that question in terms of inviting people?
Yeah, I always ask people anytime I am attending something, you know, like, hey, I'm going to help out the White Bear Lake Rotary Club. They have this awesome event out on the middle of the frozen lake. You want to tag along and check it out? And I think just speaking from like my personal experience and with enthusiasm and just, you know, sharing in all that we're going to do, it really just builds up the momentum, and sooner or later they're going to come along, whether or not I'm dragging them by the hand and showing them how much fun we have. But just, if I want to go and I'm having fun, other people will see that and they'll want to join in on the fun as well. So I think you should always ask, especially if there's an event going on. It doesn't have to be just a Rotary meeting. Those aren't always the funnest. Let's be honest. You know, it's a lot more fun when you get to engage and volunteer and do something. So I think you should always ask.
Very good. So what should the value proposition of our clubs be to attract younger members? And Chelsea, I'll let you go ahead and start on that one.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, it's something I am always looking for. What I see the value is going to be the relationships you build, the events and activities you get to be a part of, and the difference you get to make in the community and throughout the world. That's the value in it.
All right. Thank you. David, I'm going to put you between the two smart ladies here. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, honestly, I'd like to start out with the point that I think millennials and Gen Xers too are really passionate people about the things they care about. And we can really, I think, look at some of the key proposals and projects that Rotary International are tackling. Clearly, polio is almost over. And so like things about clean water and human trafficking and other environmental things are really key points that I think you can get younger people to be very passionate about. So it's just, I think it's, you know, it's engaging them, letting them know that what Rotary does, and give them an outlet to put all that passion into.
Excellent. Excellent. Chelsea?
What was the question again? Was this the one I just answered?
What should the, oh, I missed
think it's on to
Victoria. I'm sorry.
Victoria.
I was the other way.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, when I kind of read this question, the biggest thing I thought of is, as a millennial, we pay dues, right? It's not free to be a Rotarian. And so I think it's really important that we are able to show people that there's sort of a return on their investment. It's an investment in your community, it's an investment in yourself. Because there's a lot of networking groups, there's a lot of organizations out there that don't cost anything. They don't, have, obligations or whatever. And it's like, well, okay, but by kind of having some money in it, you almost have a little bit of skin in the game, and you kind of are a little more motivated to make the most out of it and to create the connections. And it's not just this peripheral thing like, oh yeah, I have a LinkedIn profile and I follow this person. It's like, okay, but you don't really have that connection with it. It's just sort of this thing that's out there, and so I think that's something that we can highlight, is that, yeah, it might cost some money to join, to be a member, but what you put into it is what you get out of it.
Excellent. So I'm going to open it up to the audience. If you got questions, you can just raise your hand or put it in the chat, one way or the other. I think we've heard some good ideas. We will try and distribute a summary of some of these things after the meeting tonight, so that you'll have something to take home. It may take me a day or two to put it all together, but I will get it back to all the participants tonight. But are there questions? If you can just raise your hand on go to my gallery view, and so oh, okay, Cindy. I see Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I want to thank the panelists, and thanks to you too, Ken, for hosting this. Okay, so my question is a little bit of a discussion of the number of millennials and Gen Xers in each of your respective clubs. In our club, in the New Brighton Mounds View Rotary Club, our club is about 43 years old. We are predominantly, I'd say we are on the older edge of the demographics. We have some members that are in their 80s, 70s, certainly a lot in the 60s, 50s, 30s, but we don't have a lot of young people. So I feel a little insecure about trying to reach out to younger people. But I'm curious about your clubs and what your demographics are as far as the younger. And then also, do you find that that's a detraction, or are a lot of prospective members just open to having connections and meaningful relationships with people of all ages and generations? Thank you.
Victoria, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure. So I actually was pretty intimidated. So I think one thing we have to remember is that millennials are not 18-year-old kids anymore. We are in our late 20s and 30s, and we have families now and actual careers. We're not just fresh out of college anymore. But there's also sort of this generational thing, and I know I'm not the only one that experiences it because I've reached out to some of my friends, is there's this little bit of imposter syndrome, is we don't feel that we are deserving of that spot at the table with these accomplished, what we perceived as accomplished people. And it's taken me a really long time to realize that I am accomplished, right? I do deserve to be at that same table with these people. Yeah, I might not own my own business, but I have life experience and I have things to bring to the table. you know, I can share my experiences and make someone else a better person too.
Mhm. That's great.
Chelsea, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't be afraid to spark up a conversation when you guys are hosting an event, Sydney. If you see, you know, some younger people wanting to kind of, even if they're just taking a second look at your booth or whatever you guys got going on, don't be afraid to go up and start a conversation with them. They probably don't know much about Rotary. You know, when I first moved to Minnesota, I was out at the barely open for the White Bear Lake Rotary Club fundraiser they host every year. And one Rotarian just came up to me. He had no idea that I had previous Rotary experience and just started up a conversation about what they had going on, what their club's all about. And 2 weeks later, I was at my first White Bear Lake Rotary meeting, and that's all it took is one conversation. So we're out here, we want to be a part of these cool clubs, you know, like Victoria said, we don't always feel like we deserve to be at the table, but it only takes one person to strike up that conversation and make us feel worthy. So don't be afraid.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
David, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think you're right. With numbers, it makes it more comfortable. I think I'll speak for some of our older members. I think they enjoy the freshness and seeing young professionals and giving them the advice with it. On a lighter note too, when I told one of my colleagues that I was going to be on this panel, she ended up giving me a nickname. She's calling me a rough now, a Rotarian under 40. So it's become a thing in our club. But yeah, there's value in all ages, in all of our members, and utilizing that is great. But yes, making an inclusive environment is tricky, especially when we're dealing with hybrid situations now.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Clint, you've got your hand up. What's your question?
Oh, I wanted to, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I haven't used this microphone before. I wanted to volunteer that when I first became a Rotarian, it was because I was told I was going to be a Rotarian by my boss. And I don't think we should be afraid to approach businesses in our communities that have an interest in having their workers essentially make connections in the community to convince the owners or the managers that they should just approach some of their younger up and coming employees to say, guess what? You're a Rotarian. And I have to admit that at first I was surprised, but it, of course, was a pleasant surprise. And then when I moved to a different city, then I chose to be a Rotarian without any company incentive. But I have to admit, without having had my boss tell me I was going to be a Rotarian, it wouldn't have occurred to me. And it's been great.
Well, that certainly is a good point, Clint, and one I've seen in my own club where we get new members because the boss says you're going to join. So I think that is an important thing. However, I would like to know the reaction of our panelists, to that scenario. If your boss came to you and said you got to join Rotary, how would you take that? And it's assuming that your boss is not your father-in-law or something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to start with this as I've had an employer, say that I was going to join Rotary, and he paid for my membership, and the reason he wanted me to join was not for the right reasons. so it was like a big turnoff because when I showed up at the meetings, I was there to represent him in a way that wasn't true to my heart. You know, I didn't join Rotary to get him business. I joined Rotary to make connections and do good in my community and build on my relationships. So I think there's a really fine line when it comes to, you know, your employer pushing this on you. If you don't have the, you know, your heart in the game, why? I just think there's a really fine line there, and I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes, but I had a very bad experience with that. And I think it's much better that I am in Rotary for my own reasons. I'm not in it for any personal gain or professional gain for my boss. I'm here because I want to be here.
David?
Yeah, I really appreciate where Chelsea's coming for that, because those are members that aren't volunteering for items. They're not engaged, and what's the value other than to do? On the flip side, though, I think there's the opportunity to kind of get people in that might not have known about Rotary. It's part of our membership strategy. We actually have tiered dues where going to a company and saying, you need to, or you should have a representative in Rotary. It would be good for your company, and here's an incentive to give some professional development and community engagement to one of your younger members rather than one of your older members, because it's going to cost you a lot less. So there are, I think, some values in it for one, the employee, and also the employee.
What's your reaction, Victoria?
Well, so in healthcare, we have several organizations that our bosses just kind of say, hey, we have a building membership and you should do this. We do not get the turnout. No, people just, unless that they know that they can get continuing ed type stuff, they're like, nah, I'm not going to take my time. So I can see where, if as an owner of a business, where if you've had the right person, you could make that an incentive. Because we see that all the time, like, hey, do you want to go back to school, and we'll pay for you to go back to school. Like, that's a pretty common thing in a lot of places. So it's kind of finding that right fit is, I have this opportunity for you. I think you'd be a good fit, but if you're not interested, I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to make you do it.
Very good. Joel, you had a question in the chat. You wanted to speak of that directly?
Yeah, just seeing that everywhere you look at social media now, every commercial has a social media designation on the bottom of it. You know, there are some ways that those kind of local Rotary clubs can be using social media to promote the awareness, hopefully gain new members. But sometimes I feel like I didn't really know about the Rotary until someone talked to me about it. What if there's just ways we could bring that awareness without having to seek out people, I suppose you'd say.
Mm-hmm. I'll speak to that, because social media is like a huge part of my world as a pageant title holder. Like, everything goes on social media. So that's the biggest thing. Tag your club, tag Rotary International, post, you know, kind of flooding the market. You're really, you know, gonna help, you know, catch people's attention, because there's a lot. I mean, social media, it inundates our entire life, right? I mean, everybody is on Facebook. Everybody. So it's just about kind of using it smart. You know, I know that our club in St. Paul, we have events for every meeting, and because we are hybrid, we're able to broadcast those events. So you're kind of able to get like a taste of what you can get from Rotary through those events without ever having to leave your home, which is really nice.
So we actually do a Facebook Live for each of our meetings, Joel, is what she's talking about. So you can also see it and it's recorded, so you can see it later. David or Chelsea, do you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I think it's important because that's how some people are getting their news or their information or searching businesses is on some of these networks. I I'm concerned if you're looking to get younger members, I'm concerned that Facebook might actually not be a trending value for groups, but Instagram might be. Victoria talked about it. Tag things. It doesn't hurt to have a tutorial meeting where your speaker is just talking about how to engage the club, how to check in on Facebook on your phone, so people and your friends know where you're at. It's there, and this is one of those things that hand it off to somebody that knows what they're doing. The gal that runs our social media, she's 22 and she's just crushing it. No clue how to do it myself.
So you actually have like a committee that's social media focused?
Yeah, we have a couple of people that run our page on a regular basis. They're part of our public image committee.
Yeah, thanks.
Chelsea, do you want to chime in at all?
Yeah, what was the original question, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, any effective tips for using social media to spread awareness and gain new members?
Yeah, I think it's great to post about cool events you got going on. I'm not sure how interested people are to, if they stumble upon the live feed of your meeting going on. Again, they're not always that lively and exciting. But if you could broadcast your cool event you got going on, like Slice of Shoreview, the Barely Open, we have a bunch of cool events. And I feel like, again, we're not bragging about it enough. People don't know that we're out here doing this cool, fun event. So I think we need to shine light on those more so than our meetings. Let people know the cool, good things we're doing in the community. I think it's awesome that the White Bear Lake Rotary Club, I'm driving around the lake and there's signs that say Rotarians always doing good. And that really starts a conversation. We'll be driving by that sign in the car and my brother-in-law will be like, oh, look, aren't you part of that Rotary Club? What do you guys do? Tell me about that. I'm like, and I tell them my spiel again. So it's just talking about the fun things we do. We don't brag about it enough.
Excellent. Bill Klump had a question. Bill, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. I guess my question is, what are the biggest turnoffs for younger Rotarians that you've either seen at meetings or heard about? For example, one of the criticisms we had at one of our meetings is a bunch of people were talking about nursing homes, which is obviously not something that interests too many people, even under 60 for that matter.
I think the biggest thing we can do is when a newcomer comes to a meeting or event, make them feel welcomed. It goes a long way if you walk up to them and say, hey, I'm Chelsea, I'm part of this club. I'm so excited you're here. How'd you hear about us? Tell me about you. People want to talk about themselves. So make them feel important. Like, it's awesome that they're here. We want you to stay and keep that good feeling going. Don't make it awkward when they show up to a meeting and they're standing in the corner and they don't know anybody and they're just like, it puts them in a really weird, awkward position, especially a younger female coming into a older males club, So just something to think about when those new members do pop up at an event or a meeting. Make them feel welcomed, ask them about themselves, and start up that conversation, build that relationship. I think that's what we're all longing for.
David or Victoria, you want to?
Yeah,
relate
I can jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's be honest, there is a stigma that it's a good old boys club at times. And I think one of the greatest things we can do to break that stigma is, talk about all the great things that are happening in the community, turn it into people of action, tout how great and welcoming the clubs are to females. Our club, one of the greatest things we have going for us that I'm super proud of is we're just about at 50-50 for males and females, which I think is awesome. And the women in our group are just powerful, and they're just knocking out projects left and right, which is great. But yeah, and then talk about some of the programming. I'm always blown away by some of the speakers that we have. Get on your own social media and say, wow, I just heard the most interesting story about X, Y, or Z. Let people know how much you enjoy it.
Victoria?
Yeah, I would definitely say, that there's definitely a stigma of it just being, I'm gonna put it, a bunch of old white men. And we know that that's not the case, right? We have diversity. We have all of these awesome people that bring so much to the table. So it's really about highlighting what we really are about, and showing the pictures of us having a good time and getting things done, because sometimes we can all be a little, self-contained in our little bubble, and it's kind of going, look, I have these great skills that I can just bring to other people, and we can learn from each other.
Great. Ma'am, you had a question.
Not so much a question. Well, yeah, maybe. And thanks to the panel, you guys are doing a great job. I'm enjoying hearing your comments. But I'd like to make a little switch and step over to the E Club. Chris Ann or Sandra are on. You guys aren't meeting people face to face at all, and you're building your club. You've got, I'm assuming, kind of a middle-aged, younger crowd. How are you guys doing that? Could either one of you speak to that?
Sandy, I don't know if you want to say something. It's a big challenge for us.
Uh-huh.
A huge strength is that we are scattered around the country. Our focus is youth exchange, the Rotary Youth Exchange program, but we're called the cultural, what do we call it? Rotary Club of Cultural Exchange Enthusiasts, because Rotary would not let us use youth exchange in our title, which was too bad. So, initially we were attracting old Rotex people, or people who like to travel internationally. And so our topics are very internationally focused, but we haven't done a good job of growing. We've been around for 2 years. Our membership is at 13. It's small. But I'm in Denver. We have people across the states of Minnesota and Wisconsin.
And how do you attract those?
It's really hard. It's really hard. I mean, it's like, some of our speakers are Rotex that talk about their exchange year. And so we promote our meetings on the Rotex Facebook page and on the North Star Rotary Youth Exchange page. And we'll have people come in and listen. But I don't think we do a good job of following up with our visitors and saying, we'd love for you to join our club. We've got the lowest dues in the district, bar none. It is inexpensive to be in our club. And we have so many awesome friendships. Sandy, who's on here, is a new member. I never knew her until she joined our club. And I adore her. I adore her. I get to see her every week on the screen. We have a very welcoming, lovely president who we go around the circle and we chit chat. But I have to say, I don't think we've done a good job with growing our membership. So I can't give you a good answer. I'm getting some great ideas tonight in terms of what to talk about and what to focus on in terms of messaging. And, I've been a Rotarian for, I don't know, almost 40 years now, 35, 40 years. and I've been in 2 other clubs. I still don't have a great elevator speech. Isn't that stupid? I'd love to hear a good elevator speech. Could someone give me one?
Yeah, I have mine in my heart, but I can't really get it out there.
Now,
I
if you
do-
haven't
I-
lost members, you're doing pretty good stabilizing, right? In this climate. So you're doing an okay job. I mean, growing members is a little more difficult.
I'm amazed we've been stable.
Yeah.
Quite
You have
honestly.
great
The
speakers.
people that have joined have stuck around. Because we're an easy club. It's easy.
Can I add to what you said, Chrisanne? So as the new person, Chelsea and Victoria, you said some things like I'm taking notes and messaging Chrisanne on the side. And Chelsea, what you said, and Vic, I forget which one of you said, I couldn't be a member if I had to travel somewhere because I'm in different places. And a very close friend of mine has been in Rotary and I just wanted to be involved. And that's how I got involved. A local club partnered with Kiwanis to help raise their last $25,000 for an all-inclusive playground. And I loved that Rotary partnered with other clubs. So they weren't being selfish with their money, with their members, with their connections. And so he knew I could only be part of an e-club and introduced me to Chrisanne's club. So just like you said, Chelsea, they were so welcoming. Just so welcoming. I look forward to seeing them on Wednesdays. And now I've started relationships with them outside and via phone because we're all over the place. So I feel like that club is just on the verge of bringing in a lot of these their speakers are awesome. They record them if it's allowed by the speakers. They post them. They have a Facebook presence. And I think the one thing that one of you guys said was Facebook really isn't reaching that 20 somethings. And because we're with Youth Exchange, we might be better by adding Instagram or even TikTok. I mean, this club is fun and hip and everyone that's in it is so relevant. It doesn't feel stale at all, like some of the impressions. There's nobody there because they were drug into the room. They're there because they're speaking about a youth exchange, their parent, their sponsor. So I feel like you guys, we might be on the tip of new memberships. And we also have a friends of membership. So if you're a member of another club, you for not very much money, you can be a friend of our club and participate. So
how do you manage doing projects and together things if you're dispersed all over? You have different ways of contributing then or making things happen, right?
The thing I'm excited about this year is, again, I have worked virtually in my professional life for, over 10 years. And I've done projects with people around the world every day of my life. So to me, this is normal.
Right.
We're focusing on pollinators. Since we couldn't do youth exchange, we're focusing on pollinator projects and we're getting ready to send seeds out to people that want to participate, and they can print signs that say it was from our Rotary Club or something. And so I am getting involved locally with a library that wants to put in a pollinator garden. So I feel like I'm doing getting ready to do a project. And when we bring speakers in, I don't feel like I'm missing out on something because we're virtual, because our lives are so full. And I don't know,
But you may do things on the local level, right? I mean, we just did a pollinator garden around our library this October, and so we're waiting to see that all happen. But so it is possible for you to get together and do things with.
And we have social events once in a while where we get together, but our projects, I mean, we do online things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I like it.
Whatever works.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
So my point is, some people need that social interaction, and some people like the virtual interaction because they can do more. And it might be because we hold a seminar or we have, so I'm sure it's very different from people that have been in Rotary for years and years that have always met every week and had breakfast every week or whatever every week. I'm sure it's a different model, but the model I joined is a model I've been living for, many years. So anyway, it feels like it works.
Thank you,
Easy.
ladies.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear that.
Well, thank you one and all, and I want to respect everybody's time. We're running past 8 o'clock. So I'd like to formally thank Victoria, Chelsea, and David for their contributions. I think we all had some great ideas. This has been recorded and will be made available on our website in the near future. I'm not sure it will necessarily be tomorrow, but we'll get it posted. But thank you one and all. I really think it's been a good discussion. And Kathy, are you able to hang around for a little bit longer if we can keep the meeting going, or maybe you want to make me the host and you can leave if you need to?
I can hang out for a little bit.
So there are a couple other questions in the comments about social media and also about making meetings lively with jokes and humor, Sergeant at Arms, youth Rotarians, their parents and stuff. So we can continue to discuss things, but those of you who have to go, I don't want to keep you, but to thank you all for coming tonight. And it's been a great evening for the membership team. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken, and everyone. Signing off then.
All right. We'll see you, Governor Ed.